Hey everyone, how y'all doing? Welcome to the first of our patient stories of hope with my friend Jaimie Gibbard over in the UK. I'd also like to, before we get started, I'd like to give a shout out to our good friend over in the UK, Rui. I hope he's doing well and signed on to watch the interview. My name is Kirk Smith, and I was diagnosed almost 8 years ago. I live in the southern part of the United States, down in Athens, Georgia. So I'll first say, if everyone can, I hope everyone can understand my southern accent, but I'll do my best to try to enunciate. And if nothing else, at least we have Jaimie's sexy British accent to counter that and make it more tolerable. So Jaimie, welcome to our first session.
Thank you very much, Kirk, and I appreciate your compliments about my voice. That's very nice of you. I'm very honoured to be here to tell my story today. It's a real privilege, so thank you.
Sure. Well, we have limited time. We've only got 25 minutes, so I'd like to just jump in right away with our first question, and just want to ask you, Jaimie, if you can share a little bit about your lung cancer journey, and let us know how that's going.
Sure, I'd love to. So yeah, I'm Jaimie Gibbard. I'm 35 now, and I was diagnosed in April 2019 when I was 33 years old. Before my diagnosis, I didn't really have any symptoms that I had noticed, so it was very unexpected when I had a seizure and was taken to hospital. After having some scans, they found some brain mets first, and they traced the primary back to my lung, and I was diagnosed at stage 4. I was in the hospital for over a week, and I was desperate to get home and see my son the whole time I was there. And I'd never been away from him for that long before, so it was really tough. One of the doctors said to me that if I was so eager to go home, then I must be fine. At the time, that was like extremely hurtful. I found that very difficult. He did come back and apologize to me after he read my notes. So I like to think that was the first time I changed someone's perception about people with lung cancer, even if it wasn't on purpose. A week after I left the hospital, my biopsy results came back and I was told I was ALK-positive. And life in the beginning, I found it very difficult mentally and physically. I had some side effects from alectinib, and I was on a lot of steroids as well because I had quite a lot of disease in the brain. I had some nausea, some swelling, terrible joint pain, and I hardly slept for weeks. I barely recognized myself really when I looked in the mirror, and I was just in total shock at my diagnosis, and I was very scared, as I'm sure a lot of us were when we first got the news. I just had no idea what the future looked like, if I'd be physically well, able to support my family, to enjoy life. And I kept thinking that I might not see my son kick a ball, go to school, or make some friends. It was very hard for me and my wife to enjoy our wedding day because I had my first scans the week after, and I'm sure we all remember how difficult that first time was. Looking back, I wish I'd joined the ALK-positive support group sooner. But I was just a little bit afraid of, finding out too much information. But with the help from my own family and the hope that's been given to me by my new family at ALK-positive, and that's everyone watching, things are very different now. I've been on alectinib since diagnosis with a single radiotherapy session last year. My scans last week were stable, and my oncologist just told me that I can move my MRIs out to every 6 months because he's so confident that my brain is clear for now. And I do consider myself now to be very fortunate, both in terms of the amount of time that I've had on a single inhibitor, but also that I'm well enough to work full time and enjoy life with my family. My son was just 18 months old when I was diagnosed, and he's going to be 4 in September. And I feel so grateful that I've not only seen him kick a ball really well, I might add, but I was really able to enjoy it as well. I was able to be in the moment with him rather than being disengaged by fear. And I'm also very lucky to have such a great support system, my wife and my immediate family. and to also be a part of this amazing community, which has given me so much.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Jaimie. So that talking a little bit about this particular community, let's cover that. So tell us a little bit about your experience with ALK-positive, the organization.
Yeah, so I started off, I joined the support group a few months after I was diagnosed. And as I said, at first, I wasn't really sure what to expect. But immediately I saw how supportive and caring our community is. And actually, one of the first people to greet me in the support group was you, Kirk, with your trademark catchphrases and your positivity. So this is actually a surreal but wonderful experience to be speaking with you now. I also found that learning about cancer from our support group helped me to advocate for my own care, something that's so vital for all of us to be able to do. I do have a great oncologist and care team, but with the knowledge I've gained from our group, I can tell them about treatments on the horizon or studies they may have missed. The healthcare system in the UK is quite rigid, but I like to think that we can all still make a difference, even if it's just making our doctors think about their practice in a more patient-orientated way. And luckily, I've got the backup of the entire group to help me with that. I got more involved in volunteering with ALK-positive after I joined the International Ambassadors Group and met other international patients and caregivers. We started identifying just how different the levels of care are globally and the organisations that we need to embed ourselves in to promote change. We are lucky that we have some good friends at ALK-positive with contacts at pharma and other industry organisations. So we've been asking them to come and speak with us about how we can change the world one step at a time. We also created a European ALK-positive group in the last few months, and it's not another support group because we've already got an amazing one of those. It's just a great collection of advocates from all European countries, and it contains some very intelligent and passionate people. And then there's me. And I've met some great friends who have the same desire to improve our care, not only for themselves, but for all of us. I'm hoping to continue to be involved and work towards increasing our influence worldwide. I really do believe that we are stronger together, and there's a huge opportunity for us to become even stronger by gaining more recognition by organisations all around the world. The next step for me is having our International Ambassadors Survey results. They're going to be as a poster presentation at the World Lung Conference in September. Nawa Masasa, Gina, and I worked on that together, and it was an amazing feeling to have our abstract entitled Standard of Care Disparity in a Global Cancer Support Group accepted to be shown. So having oncologists from all over the world see the ALK-positive logo at conferences is one way we can increase awareness of our group. I think the upcoming ALK-positive survey that Colin Barton and many others have worked so hard on will be another great opportunity to analyse the similarities and the differences between all of us. I'm also hoping that a decentralised trials alliance containing pharmaceutical companies and big technology is going to invite us onto their patient advisory board. That would give us a platform to inform them just how needed modernisation is in trial design and regulatory review. I think that would benefit everyone greatly. And that was a topic Teresa from Roche and Gina were discussing in the first session. And it's certainly something that will require a lot of effort from us as patients and industry. From my perspective, it seems the governments and the regulatory bodies need to adapt to the demands of remote participation in clinical trials. So advocacy and involvement from all of us patients will certainly go a long way. I'm so grateful for everyone at ALK-positive who is helping us all, especially Gina. She's always so kind and generous with her time, and she's really inspired all of us to work together for change.
Yeah, Jaimie, and I'll mention this to the people listening, the poster presentation, or at least I think you have it as a PowerPoint, is on the platform, the Summit platform under publication bin. If anybody's interested in seeing that, it's very interesting information and data. So thank you for doing that. And I agree, kind of, you referenced it, and looking back at what Teresa Graham, our keynote, said this morning, how important patients are. As I wrote it down, patients are key partners. It was one of the first things she talked about very early in her talk. And I think ALK-positive is proven that to be so, and becomes more and more powerful every day. So thank you for your role in that. It's huge, and I admire what you're doing. So kind of jump into a little different subject, Jaimie, or a question is, so what has been the most unexpected way that cancer has impacted your life?
Well, I know a lot about science now. I wasn't very good at it at school, I have to say, but certainly.
I was going to ask you to summarize the research presentations from the previous session, but I figure I'll give you.
Yeah, I think Christine Lovely's dog has got a better chance of doing that than me, don't you, Kirk? Yeah, so I'm not sure if it's cancer impacting my life directly, but I've definitely become more kind, humble, and patient since my diagnosis. I think I'm putting those ones down to our group, but cancer has taught me to be more appreciative of what I have. I wasn't an ungrateful person before, but sometimes you can just focus too much on the past or the future instead of living for today and loving what you do have. Having a sense of direction and being involved with ALK-positive has definitely inspired and motivated me. I'm more determined than ever to help others. I do still have moments where I'm scared, angry, or upset. Of course, I think that's completely normal for anyone in our position, but I find it much easier to overcome thanks to everyone at ALK-positive. You could say I have found strength in our togetherness. #Stronger So I don't actually have a catchphrase myself yet, but I definitely want to live, see stars every day, and live my best life. One thing I did struggle with initially was having the confidence to advocate. I was scared because I didn't honestly think that there was anything moving about how my diagnosis happened. The stories that I read that I thought had the most impact were the ones where people were being misdiagnosed or not taken seriously. I didn't think that my story, where I didn't really have any symptoms or I wasn't affected by the stigmas many of us have faced, would really have the same effect. What I've come to appreciate, though, is that every story has meaning and value, as cancer can affect anyone. All of our paths are different, but it's the journey that we can share together.
So I had to mute myself slightly. I'm in my office downtown, and the fire trucks just went by. So that's great, Jaimie. Thank you for that.
So sorry, Amanda did have a question that I've just seen in the chat, so I'll just answer that if that's okay.
Sure.
Amanda asked about the ambassadors survey. So what it was, we asked participants in the ambassadors group international to answer 10 questions regarding the quality of care in their country, such as what inhibitor are they prescribed first line, do they have knowledgeable doctors, do they have access to NGS testing, what types of scans do they get. And then we collaborated all the results into graphs that are broken down by country. So you can really see what Gina was talking about earlier, where even within one country, you'll find that different patients are experiencing different levels of care. And so it enables us to highlight that that's happening not only internationally, but also, even in the US. I think we got 4 different answers for how do you rate the quality of your care. So it shows that there's still plenty of work for advocates to do to enable a much higher quality of care, not only internationally, but also in the same country. So as I said, if you go to the publication bin, you can view those slides. I'd appreciate it if you don't send them to anyone, because it's supposed to be on the World Lung Conference in September, as I said, so it's not really supposed to be in the public domain quite yet, but you're more than welcome to go and have a look. And I'll be talking a bit more about that in the ALK International breakout room tomorrow. So if you're an international patient, you can come and I'll tell you a bit more about it then if you're interested.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jaimie. So what have you learned about your role within the ALK community?
Yeah, I think everyone has a role to play. Like, even if it's just participating in the support group, sharing your experiences, or giving advice, that can have a huge effect on each other's lives. And there are just so many activities to do now as well. There's, yoga and baking and art therapy, the Buddies program, the Mail Brigade, which is a really lovely thing. It's just so great to see everyone getting involved. Certainly in my case, the more people I get to know from our community, the more I love it. I think we've really grown into something very special. Volunteering wise, I think I discovered my role working with other international patients. Our goal is to solidify ALK-positive's position as a truly global organisation. One way that we're aiming to do this is building a mesh of advocacy groups in all the countries where we have members. This way we can work together to advocate on local issues, but also things that affect all patients internationally. In the future, it's easy to imagine that these national ALK-positive groups could all be non-profits, so they could benefit from sponsorship, recognition, and support from industry organizations. And all of that would mean better things for all of us, so we can attract more members, are able to have a larger influence, raise more money for research, and push for better care and quality of life for all ALK-positive patients worldwide. Some problems, like needing decentralized trials that we all desperately need, will take time. If we work together, I really believe that we can have an impact on wider medical practices.
Very good. I'm noticing here, Gina's in the comment section, chat section, that Gina said, oops. And she's referring to you that the research wasn't, the slides weren't supposed to be public yet. So Gina will attribute that to lorlatinib overdrive.
It's fine. I was asked if they could be put there, and I said yes. So it's really okay. Just don't send them to your doctor quite yet, because they will see it at the conference, and it will have a much greater impact, I think, if they do that. So that'd be great.
Yeah, and before we go to that, I have one other question specifically, but before we get to that, I see Gina does have a good question for you, Jaimie, that is, what do you think is the biggest problem ALK-positive patients face internationally?
So myself, I would agree with the results of our international survey that access to medication, access to the clinical trials, and more research were the top three answers, and those are the things that we all really want. And when we dived into the reasons for those things, most of the respondents that were outside of the US, it was an issue of government funding. So they weren't willing perhaps to supply the TKIs, and we certainly have that problem in the UK, and it's quite prevalent in Europe generally. I think we don't have the same access as in America. So I think those three things are like the largest things that we have to tackle, and I'm glad to be involved and working with other patients and pharma to try and tackle those problems. I hope that answered your question, Gina.
Yeah, that was a great answer. Thanks, Jaimie. The last question we have down here, and it's one that you and I talked a little bit about in the green room before we came out here, and it's one that I think is very, very important, especially after last night during social hour with a lot of the other patients. It's a reminder of where people are and how where they're, some of the things that they're struggling with. And for me, as somebody that's coming up on 8 years, I have a different perspective than somebody that may be very newly diagnosed, or even just 1 year and 2 year. And so my question is, how do you and your family, especially you and your wife, tackle living with this disease, and then staying positive on a day-to-day basis, or at least staying positive and moving forward in that direction?
Yeah, well, I mean, other than getting a nice collection of t-shirts from Erica, as I mentioned, I'm very lucky to have great family and friends who have always supported me, and they're a really big part of my motivation for staying positive. I feel like I wasted enough time being unhappy immediately after my diagnosis, and I just can't do that anymore. I deserve more than that, and my family does as well. We're quite fortunate that my son is too young to really understand. Honestly, he just likes looking at the ambulances when we go to the hospital and seeing his nanny who works there. When he's old enough to understand, we'll just tell him the truth. We'll just tell him that his daddy isn't very well. But there are some really intelligent doctors working around the clock to help him, and an army of friends ready to help in any way they can. My wife, Kat, has been the biggest support to me. She's incredible. She herself has spoken with a lot of the other caregivers and patients in the group, and knowing that we aren't alone has been a great help to both of us and the people we now call our friends. I would suggest if you're struggling with your situation and you need to talk to someone, just reach out. Maybe find someone on the map who lives near you, or someone in the group who is going or has been through the same thing. And don't be afraid to ask for help. One of my greatest fears is that there are people amongst us who need to talk to someone, but they just can't take that first step. I promise you will feel better. And if you don't really know who to speak to, you can come to me, I promise. That's not a problem. And I know it's very difficult, but it's so important that you're honest and open about how you're feeling. It's only then that somebody could help you. And as we discussed, Kirk, learning a lot about the disease from the group, reading research if you have to, that will really help you get a sense of hope. I mean, you saw all the amazing researchers that we just had on the last call. And it just takes your breath away, all the amazing things that they're doing. So we really do have hope for the future. I'm just so inspired by the other people in our group. I'm so grateful for all of you for having such a positive effect on my life. If there's one thing I could recommend to newer members, it'd be to get involved with ALK-positive. There are so many ways that you can help, and it will make you feel good. And remember Gina's analogy that she mentioned earlier. I was going to say this anyway, but she sort of got in there first. A few snowflakes can't do much, but together an avalanche can move a mountain. I probably didn't get it right. I can't really deliver it like she can. It also really helps to know we're part of an amazing group that has the ability to fund and select its own research. The things the medical and research committee do are just amazing as well. We have such an adept set of researchers and oncologists working on our behalf. And we have plenty of reasons to be hopeful for the future, a future that we will all share together.
Yeah, I think, all that's great, Jaimie. And I think, some of what you and I talked about in the green room was, and what you've done and what I really admire about what you've done. And I do remember posting, when you first came on the support group and it's what amazes me about what you've done is that you've found your purpose. And I think that's so key. So when you're struggling in this time right now, ultimately we all, I don't care whether you had cancer or not, if you have a purpose in life, it was what will drive you. And I think you have found that and you're doing remarkable things with it. And I admire it. I actually see, looking at the chat, and I was going to actually say this because it's something I say also. I believe it's Wendy Asher maybe had said that she uses don't waste your cancer. Yeah, hey, Wendy. Which is a phrase I use all the time too, is don't waste your cancer. And I think that's a chance where you've got a chance to make an impact and use this cancer, use what we have, this diagnosis, which turns our life upside down, and you do something amazing with it. And that's what you're doing right now. And I applaud you for it. And I'm really honored to be able to be interviewing you and be able to be a part of this session. So thank you for that. We've got like 30 seconds left. So if you want to wave to everybody and say thank you, I'll let you have the floor.
Yeah, I'll keep talking until it finishes. So I'd like to say thanks to Amanda and all the summit committee. You've done just an incredible job. Everyone else for giving your time. Erica for the amazing merchandise as well. All the sponsors of the summit. Everyone involved with ALK-positive and the admins of the support group. Like I said, if I can do anything for anyone, just reach out to me. And Kirk, we were going to do a roundtable. Should we do it after the next session at 3:05 Eastern? So if you want to come and talk to me and Kirk, 3:05 Eastern, we'll have a roundtable. If you go to the menu on the Summit platform on the left, you'll see roundtables. Click it and then you'll see one called Jaimie and Kirk there, and we'll have a nice chat with whoever wants to come by.
Oh, well, thanks everybody. They're probably about to shut us off. So see y'all at the next session or at the roundtable.